Welcome to my channel, or welcome back. Today's video is going to be in honor of my second child's 3rd birthday. I love sharing birth stories like this, and I really wanted to share mine the way I share others. I know that I've shared my birth a lot, which is annoying, but I don't think I've shared it from this perspective exactly. In early May 2017, I found out that I was pregnant, and after my experience with my first child's birth, I decided that I didn't want to have another hospital birth. I was afraid to go to the hospital, mainly. Birth is also kind of what planted that seed of birth work in my head, and now hopefully it's growing as I'm able to support other birthing people now, and I have this channel. I'm really thankful for that birth experience and how it opened doors for me. A lot actually goes into having a home birth, and this is what I learned. Somehow got in touch with a doula who got me in touch with someone else who got me in touch with home birth midwives. Talked to a few different home birth midwives and found one that I thought that I might be interested in, and I kind of clicked with, because that was really important. I knew that I wanted to choose my provider this time and not settle. That's not to say that the other midwives weren't great. I just wanted someone that seemed relatable to me, and I found that in another midwife. So it was sometime in August, after May I think, that I was like, okay, yep, I'm having a home birth, this is the midwife, let's do this. So that's when it all started. I found out I was pregnant in May, and then in August I decided I was gonna have a home birth for sure. And my partner was skeptical at first, but then I made him watch The Business of Being Born, and he was like, yeah, okay, it makes sense. Let's do it. And the cost was also an issue. We did a payment plan. It took over a year to pay, and my midwife was great whenever I was honest about money. So that was the key, just to be honest and open about money and finances and budgeting and when things got tough. These things still aren't very easily accessible, which is really unfortunate because we don't have many options where I live. We don't have a birth center that I can just drive to 10 minutes away. We don't have a lot of midwives that are certified nurse midwives that are legal in North Carolina and can legally attend home births under an obstetrician. We just don't have that. So it's not that these things are easily accessible, but it can be done, and it's not easy, and I learned that. It may have not been easy, but it was really worth it to me, and I had a good birth outcome, and my experience was good. So that was my main goal. I educated myself a lot on pregnancy and childbirth the entire time I was pregnant, but I'm still learning, especially from other people. But I got prepared for my birth, and I started to learn, why does this happen? Why does that happen in birth? Why do I feel this and why do I feel that? And then I connected all the dots, and I became more aware of my body. And I've always been kind of aware of my body, like my menstrual cycles and all that good stuff. So I just brought that awareness onto my pregnancy, and then onto my birth. My midwife came around 11 a.m. that morning. She told me when she came I would probably be having a baby that night, and I still didn't believe her. So by 1 p.m. was when my contractions began to pick up and change. So I noticed a shift, which often indicates active labor as well. My contractions went from 11 minutes apart to 7 minutes apart, sometimes to 5. They weren't like consistent on the dot. Like in early labor it was like 11 to 9 minutes apart, and it would kind of change, and then active labor it was like 7 to 5 minutes, and it would change. It would vary. It stayed 11 minutes apart from the night before all morning until about 1 p.m. And then from 1 p.m. until about 4:30 p.m. it stayed pretty consistent from 7 to 5 minutes apart. I cleaned a lot. I got my dishes done, which I always worried about. I wanted my dishes clean so I wouldn't have to do them, you know, the day after I gave birth. I also used that time in active labor to bounce and sway my hips and roll in figure eights on my birth ball to Cardi B, which was really helpful to be able to bounce on the ball to that beat. My 4-year-old at the time had a lot of fun sitting with me while I was on my ball and listening to music. It was really cute, and I wish I had more videos and stuff of that. So at 4:30 my boyfriend calls, and he knows that I'm like 40 weeks and 3 days and I could give birth literally any second, and he's like, should I work later today? What's gonna happen? How are you feeling? I was like, sure, go ahead. But then I called him back and my contractions felt different. Like I said, I noticed a shift, and I was like, no, you should probably come home. We might actually be having a baby, but I still don't know. I was still in denial. So he got home and I cooked dinner while everything was still okay, but it started to get really uncomfortable even to sit on the birth ball. I made brown rice, cauliflower patties, and chickpeas, and it started to get hard to cook, so I knew something was different. As soon as he got home and I was eating, I made my daughter and myself a plate. That's when everything really picked up. So from 4:30 p.m. on, it's all just a big blur. I was in complete labor land. So sometime around 8, I probably went into transition. And I was still eating cauliflower patties. I would have it in my cheek whenever I had a contraction, and then I would chew it and swallow quickly in between the contractions because I was starving. And I had low blood sugar, so I wanted to keep that up and make sure I was hydrated and fed. I did try to get into the water. I had a birth tub taking up my entire living room kitchen area because we only have one big area because I'm in a garage apartment. And the water felt amazing. It relaxed every muscle in my body. However, I just couldn't get comfortable. I was entering transition. I needed movement. I needed to be in whatever position made me comfortable, and that just wasn't it for me. But it's really helpful for some people. So I always encourage people to try different positions and to get in different positions to see where you might be comfortable pushing. Around 8:30, he calls my midwife and he's like, "You should probably come," because that's when I started to moan and scream. Get her out, get it! And whenever we scream in birth, we don't want to shriek or do high-pitched noises because it kind of like pinches our vocal cords and kind of clenches and pinches everything down there. We want everything good and open and loose. So we want to make deep moans rather than high-pitched shrieks.
You got it.
We don't want everything tight like this. We want everything open. Transition, this was the hardest part for me, and this is why I screamed so much. Mostly because I was going through all these different things in my head. I thought of trigger warning, sexual assault, I thought of my birth trauma, and I thought of just every bad thing while I was in transition. Though I did EMDR with my therapist before this, I didn't talk about these things that are really important that I should have talked about. That's when I had to face a lot of fears, and I was afraid of throwing up.
You breathe.
I just don't want to throw up. I know you don't.
You're fine.
I don't think you will.
This is when the pushing phase occurred. So I was in transition on my bed, midwife's cold hands giving me hip squeezes, sniffing lavender, swaying, screaming, getting on all fours, leaning, kneeling, getting in all different positions, all over my bed. I had my bed made and I basically unmade it. I had a bunch of Chuck's pads under me. We weren't even prepared with a tarp or anything. I wasn't prepared to give birth on my bed. I thought I would give birth literally on my kitchen floor. I had a dream of that and I thought it would happen. I don't know why. I was like, I've got to get on my back and I have to push. This is the position in my head I felt most comfortable in. I knew that pushing on your back isn't great. It's not the optimal position to push in. Being upright and squatting is great. But in my head and my body was telling me, lay on your back. So that's what I did. I listened to my body. All good. But this is what pushing was like for me. So in transition, I hit this wall that I kind of had to climb over. And then that was the moment I just surrendered my body to my birth, and I was like, I'm on this roller coaster for now, it's gonna end, I can't do anything about it, I can just accept it, ride the waves as they come, and just ride this out. So finally I did that. The pushing stage started with a burning sensation in my vagina. The burning sensation also included a pressure in my rectum and vagina, and which was obviously my baby's head engaging. With that pressure and the ring of fire, I laid on my back, and every pain I had been feeling in labor, from transition, from active labor, all of that, gone.
Right.
I feel her. I know. It feels so much better now.
Yeah. You're good right now, huh? Yeah. Isn't that funny how you get this weird calmness?
Yeah.
A peacefulness washed over me. I was calm. I was still afraid of throwing up. It felt like my body was throwing up out of my butt. I've said that before, but it's the strangest feeling. It feels like you're pushing everything out. Like my body started to push for me. I pushed with it, but it was pushing for me. And I would push with a contraction and I would rest. I only pushed for maybe 7 minutes, or from the time I noticed the ring of fire, it was 7 minutes until my baby was born.
Alright, 10:03, heads out. Open up a little bit for me, okay?
My hand was also placed on my baby's head as I was pushing, and it encouraged me to not give up. It was like, this is it, she's here, I'm doing it, I don't have to go to the hospital. I did it. But my midwife also reminded me, it's not over, keep going, you don't have much longer.
She's great.
She's here.
Great job. Okay, well, we gotta finish.
One more push.
So I pushed her out, and they guided the baby with my hands onto my chest. And then I held my baby. I instantly wanted to run away with my baby for some reason. And everybody was like, settle down, stay still. But in my mind, I was like, I've got to run. I've got to like take off. It had to have been all of the adrenaline and endorphins and different things going in my body after enduring and facing so much trauma, I think. Not trauma from that birth, but from a previous birth and previous situations. So I pushed out my baby on the end of my bed in my bedroom that we sleep in without a mattress pad or anything on my bed, so I kind of destroyed my mattress a little bit, but that's okay. I was afraid of going to the hospital. I even say when I'm pushing, I don't have to go to the hospital now, do I? And everyone's like, no. But it was just unbelievable. Had a minor tear, so it was all good, some little bit of bruising. It was time to birth my placenta. I was worried about hemorrhaging for some reason. I was worried about retaining placenta and just not birthing it all. I don't know why. And I breastfed while I did it because I knew that the contractions of the breastfeeding would help me contract more to push out my placenta, because after you birth your baby, if you're having a vaginal birth, birth isn't over yet. You're still going to have contractions and you still have to birth a placenta, which isn't like childbirth, but kind of. It just feels like this big glob. And my midwife encouraged me and helped me get my placenta out. I feel like I resisted it a little bit and I kind of had troubles, but I got that good blood gush like you do that helps push the placenta out, which is totally normal. I got the blood gush with my first child too. Midwife gave my sister a tour of my placenta, showed me all the membranes were intact and every part of the placenta was intact and nothing was left inside of me. So after that, my midwives hung out for about 2 hours after birth to make sure that I was okay. I had, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people like here. My dad was watching my daughter at his house because I was worried that she would miss dinner, so I had him watch her, and they're next door. But my dad stood on my steps with my grandma had my aunt on FaceTime, I had my boyfriend's mom, my sister, 2 midwives. My dad took my dog too because he was throwing up everywhere nervous, but I had a lot of people up here. And then they all left and it was all over. I got pregnant. It was a really hard time, and my whole pregnancy I couldn't believe that I was pregnant. I learned that a lot of people feel this, like their baby isn't real, this isn't really happening, that they would lose their baby, and it just felt all unreal to me after everything that had happened before my pregnancy. So giving birth and an actual human being actually coming out of me was like a shock, and I was so happy that she was real and everything went okay.
I just had a baby.
Yes, you did. Good job, too.
I feel so much better.
I bet you do. Here, I'll go get her some food.
I was on that birth high for about a week, but then I realized, like, after my 6-week checkup with my midwife, that's it. This journey's over and I'm alone. And that's when I realized that we don't pay enough attention to postpartum people like we do birthing people who are pregnant. Whenever someone births their baby and they're no longer pregnant, all the focus seems to go to the baby. And so I kind of suffered again postpartum with the second pregnancy in 2018. Not as severely as I did with my first child, but I was very lonely. And I isolate myself and push people away. It's natural for me, especially during cold and flu season when my children were born. It sucks. And postpartum people really need more postpartum support. I just wanted to share that video with you all. I hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you for coming to my channel. Subscribe if you'd like, and I'll see you next time.